Hello everyone, and this is the freshest episode of Present Perfect podcast. And today with me, I have the luck of having Adelina, who is the transformational career coach. Hello, Adelina. Thank you so much for coming.
Hi, Xenia. Thank you so much for having me today. My pleasure.
Adelina, I feel like career coaching is so important now in Switzerland because I see a lot of restructurings going on in a lot of companies, also in very big corporations as well, not only the smaller ones.
I've been coaching for career transitions for a decade. So I've been for a decade in Switzerland myself and navigating career with a focus on expats transitions, but also sometimes local. People talk a lot about, the impact after the pandemic on careers and the restructures, people being laid off, people wanting to start something new or close to retire, or, the gender or the age bias. So these are topics very well known in Switzerland. At the same time, when I see comments like, for instance, the job market is quite tough at the moment. For me, it's something that I've seen every single year. On the other hand, with the use of AI and technology, of course, the demand it's more and requires new skills and constant development. A lot of focus is being placed on courses, certificates, and I think that also relates with the aligns with the Swiss values.
I actually see this as well. I feel like in Switzerland, whatever you do, you need to have a certificate. And I can just give an example because I wanted to join my local badminton team.
I remember last year around this time, we wrote an article drawing a parallel between badminton and leadership. So, when you play a sport like badminton, that it's also competitive, so that you can also highlight, the best in yourself and also see the best in others.
Well, this is very interesting because I have never thought of badminton this way, but I guess this is going to change now. You mentioned that there is a focus on constant reskilling, upskilling. What would you say are the top skills that you believe would make a competitive advantage for people who take it now?
When it comes to skills development, I've always seen, being a coach myself and a coach trainer for a few years, I've seen the importance of leadership development and the coaching skills. So that's something like very, very important nowadays. On the other hand, or simultaneously with the focus on AI, that also becomes very, very important. So AI literacy and digital skills coupled with people skills are very, very important. And Switzerland being known for sustainability, I would say that also a focus that has a lot of potential. So
for the AI, I could understand. I guess this is something that is demanded in any case, in pretty much any role that you have. Leadership as well, because I've also been hearing of that leadership skills are so important, especially when you grow in your career vertically. But the environmental part, the sustainability part, this is something new to me.
It's not so common to make a career change, and that would be considered more as a threat. And then, backing up and showing that you're really qualified with certificates or trying to build a portfolio that would give an employer more credibility about yourself. And also, I think, confidence on your side as a candidate.
You say that changing career is maybe not something so supported in Switzerland. But if you decided anyways to do the career change and career transition, so changing the domain, what then would be your advice how to frame it in such a way that looks like less of a threat and more of something desirable?
I think career changes are still happening all the time, especially looking at my experience with expats or with people who have the career abroad and they went on a maternity leave or a longer maternity leave compared to Switzerland, and they have a career break or for any other family situations. We need to focus more on the transferable skills, on the people side again, so valuable contributions. That would be, the core achievements.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so basically you're looking for the ways how you position your previous careers and previous achievements that would also be relevant for the future choice.
Exactly.
Okay.
And I would say always related and try to align it with your own personal values and strengths. What I hear very often from my clients, they believe that they should have different CVs. like different versions of themselves, and that can become very confusing at the end of the day. So having clear understanding of your values, what your goals, and trying to align that with the Swiss culture.
So you would say stick with one CV version. Don't create multiple CVs. How would you describe the Swiss context to maybe somebody who is not yet familiar with that?
I know Switzerland sounds very appealing to most of the people. At the same time, it's still known as a coconut culture. So,
What's a coconut culture?
Being very tough at the beginning, so it's not easy to open it, to crack it. It requires understanding and clarity. Switzerland being known for professionalism, for structure, punctuality. So being on time, that's really, really important. Even a few minutes can create not the desired outcome.
You know, that's actually the part that I love about Switzerland, because I come from Latvia. If you are not early, then you are even a little bit late.
Yes, I think here being on time means being 5, maximum 2 minutes too early. When people come too early, like 15, 20 minutes, that may be perceived as being stressed. It will be too much. And
stressed or having too much free time.
Yeah.
Adelina, you know, most of our listeners are women. Would you say there are some specific, I don't want to say mistakes, but the things that you would like women to change in terms of them looking for the job in Switzerland? And
yes, I think that's a topic very close to my heart, to be honest, because I think it's very much related to confidence and self-confidence and the way you present yourself. And in the vast majority of cases, I hear people saying that they don't know how to sell themselves. From a job search perspective, the most important thing is to build a confidence. And when people work with me, instead of focusing only on the technical part, we also try to see, to put themselves in a positive light that would truly reveal their authenticity and their style, their accomplishments. So there is not just having a nice CV or a piece of document.
It's people, also creating the storytelling.
Exactly.
Right?
That's the transformation part. And I always say quality over quantity. When I work with people, I think every client of mine focuses on getting a job that they really like. That's why they come to coaching. And I tell them that in a way the Swiss culture works in their advantage because it's not the typical culture where you can get a job within 1 week.
I've heard from someone that on average it takes a minimum of 6 months to get a job. From what I'm hearing, we could vaguely identify 2 types of people or 2 types of situations where maybe it is a little bit more difficult to get the job. So one is the women with children, and second, the people, let's say, I don't want to say close to retirement age because that, let's say 50 plus.
Yes, and in reality, the research shows that on what I heard from companies indirectly is that the issue starts with 40.
40,
yes,
already.
That's why we say we don't put the date of birth in the CV, though there are many opinions that contradict this, but that would be unconscious, or I would say conscious bias, because people can immediately make the assumptions. It's still possible, of course, to estimate the date of birth based on how many years of experience you would share.
And maybe when did you go to university, more or less?
Exactly, the graduation. So that's when I see people stating date of birth, names of children, or family status. That's already creating a scenario in the recruiters or the hiring manager, instead of being fully focused on the summary or who they are as a professional.
And what would you say about hobbies? Is this something you would recommend to put on a CV or not?
Yes, this is very common. And as you gave earlier the example of badminton, it's interesting from HR side to see, and also from the coaching side, to see if there are any correlations between the interests and the soft skills that we'd highlight in a summary. So for instance, if someone who would call themselves creative, we would want to see if that creativity is showcased, in the hobbies. Could be in the Swiss context, because Switzerland is being known for the country with a good work-life balance. So online visibility is also very important nowadays. So LinkedIn being the platform known for job search because it can give you other advantages instead of any other platform where you would just simply apply with the documents. And profile visibility, pictures like make also positive impact.
Do you believe that there is such a thing as the beauty privilege? Beauty is subjective, but in some sense, if somebody is looking more polished, in a way, does this add to the chances or not?
I would say it's more related to the formality. So again, not looking fully professional. So having a nice headshot, and also depending on the industry that you target, the outfit can make a difference. So I think this is how beauty would be translated in the Swiss context.
It is true that many people are building their personal branding online, and I do think that it is very useful. I mean, this is also the way that I am operating my career right now. Would you have the suggestions of what is safe to put on LinkedIn online and what should be rather avoided?
I see sometimes people have even uploaded the CV on LinkedIn, which is not so advantageous. I mentioned earlier that it's important to have a core CV and to understand how to customize it. But if you are uploading a generic version, then employers may understand that you're using that CV for any easy apply application. There are many personal stories shared on LinkedIn, and I think on the other side that shows the human side and the connection. But because people know that LinkedIn is still a professional platform, so most of the times we see parallels between a hobby or family situation and how this would apply to leadership and how you can inspire others.
I have some favorite stories that, when you're having a bad day, you remember that story and you feel better and more motivated.
Yes, I think a good story is especially related to women with a career gap or people who have been stay-at-home mothers. A gap longer than 6 months would be important or expected to somehow be explained here, either through some personal engagement, short courses, transitions. Being in Switzerland and as an expat, most of the times is focused on language development and learning the local language. And when I work with new expats and we do the intercultural coaching as well, so there's a lot of focus on understanding the values and the alignment. So we also highlight the culture awareness that they get. And then any other course that they may decide to take, even if it's something that would start in the future, that's also the planning value of Switzerland.
Would you say it is actually important for the Swiss employees that the person has this intercultural skills? Or you would say everyone has to simply adapt to the Swiss culture and that's it?
I think it's both, to be honest. What I see in reality is that people with high cultural awareness and culture sensitivity, they are easier to adapt to the Swiss culture, being known as a coconut again, right?
And by the way, coming back to the coconut culture, how do you break the coconut? How do you break inside? By being structured and polite, but maybe something else?
Structure, planning, patience, and any way of development. People, most of the times, they have done many things. And talking about the stories that you asked me earlier, most of the times people come to me and they tell me that they haven't worked for the past years. And it's important to highlight, understand, first of all, what are the things that you focus on that time and what kind of soft skills you have developed. There are people that most of the times realize, I actually volunteered somewhere or I attended a workshop, and it never came to their mind that it's something that would be valuable to show. Also for themselves, so that's the blind spot first, and then also trying to understand how to highlight this as part of their development. And with the stories, what really matters is that once you see on paper clearly defined who you truly are and what was your focus, how you engage in several activities during that time, you also realize that there is no gap. And I heard this from a client who had 7 years gap.
7 years? That's
Yes.
quite a lot.
That's how she portrayed it. At the same time, she changed 2 countries. She had a small child, and she followed her partner, and then she arrived in Switzerland. And then I realized and I understood from her that she was always doing something, engaging in integration, supporting others, learning the basics of the language while being there because she knew it was something temporary. And the same she started doing here, like, learning German quite fast. So, but of course, none of these things were actually highlighted. And I was happily surprised because after she got a job in her field, which was quite competitive. And in a comment, she shared that on paper, she never had a gap and she was never questioned about that gap.
Beautiful, amazing. In terms of the language skills, how important and relevant do you think German is? We are talking about German-speaking part of Switzerland.
Yes.
Very important.
Yeah. I mean, language is by default important in Switzerland. Now it depends on your profession at the same time. So with expats, most of the times the goal is to focus on getting a job in an English-speaking environment. At the same time, an employer would value that integration effort to learn the language.
Now, we have covered pretty much the part about getting a job. Now, once our person has the job, would you have some recommendations in terms of how to behave in order to blend in the best way and then also get promoted?
Yeah, so when you get the job, of course, you're excited about that offer and the new environment, so you kind of reach your goal. And I would say first take a moment to celebrate that. So for what is known the first 90 days, so that you understand that this is a job that you want to be in, and it gives you the possibility to develop. Because there was a lot of investment on your side, I mean, also practical, financial, emotional to get there, but it's also to feel fulfilled in that role further.
Mm-hmm. What would you recommend for the first 90 days?
I would say be curious and an active listener, because the first impression matters a lot, right? So there are people who be happy to take more responsibilities at the very beginning that is not necessarily, but that would be always remember.
Okay. So you would say to listen and not to immediately jump to proposals on how to improve things.
This is really important. That again aligns with the Swiss culture being resistant to change. So don't propose a change that could sound too radical.
This is always so interesting how Swiss culture is portrayed to be resistant to change, but at the same time, it's one of the most innovative countries.
It sounds like a paradox, right?
It does.
So we need to see change as an improvement, as an area of further development and continuous improvement. And also how you propose it. It's totally different if you propose it, if I would get the job, I will change this. That would be immediately perceived as threat. Or what we can actually do together as a team to improve, company, our goals, to ensure that everything is.
So you would say to phrase things in a more soft way, as a suggestion and not as a push immediately.
Also very important, like Swiss are not, as many people assume, not direct. So there is some directness, but I would call it structured directness, if I may say so. And also with some nuances of politeness in it.
That's very interesting, because I do understand why many people think that Swiss culture is the direct culture because they speak German, and German culture is a very direct one. I've worked in Germany before, so I understand that. But it is also very interesting how you call this, like structured
directness.
Structured directness. What do you mean by that?
Don't sound too emotional. So lower the emotional volume, and try to position yourself in a confident way, with clear communication, brief statements, and more like a proposal. Otherwise, we will hear very often, we have been doing this for 20 years and we see it's working.
And it works.
Why should we change?
Okay, but I guess this is also something common to most of the places that had this specific way of working for 20 years. Yeah.
Yes.
No,
And people being laid off after 20 years, that's why they have a shock.
that's how they have a shock. And how actually would you suggest person who's been working in one place for 20 years and got laid off, how do they get back on track?
Well, definitely don't list these 20 years on the one single box, as I see very often. The company name and then a couple of roles, and that's it. We need to show development, and we need to focus again on yourself as a professional. So make a clear distinction between responsibilities and accomplishments rather than sounding too generic.
When we are trying to balance between being not emotional, so keeping things under control, having maybe a very calm posture, calm presentation, but also having the emotions as any human
Natural.
being as well. Yes, having them naturally. How do we balance that so that we, keep being true to ourselves, but at the same time not being too much? Is there even a way how to balance that?
I would say empathy is key for that, and vulnerability is considered a strength. But I think emotional is also associated with being loud sometimes, especially if you compare to other cultures like Mediterranean, for instance. And I've seen this in interviews or people, being disqualified because they sounded too loud or too impulsive. And in other cultures, that would be completely fine. But I think empathy and trying to find the middle way, so trying to show the value you have to bring either in a role, either in your current position, and how this aligns with the overall company goals.
What is often, let's say, some misconceptions that you often see when people come to you and ask for career coaching?
Yes, I think most of the times people confuse career coaches with recruiters. It's really important to work with a career coach that will help you understand the right strategy and align your values with the context and your goals. So when people assume that you will find them a job, that's a misconception.
And where do usually people should go in general to find a job? LinkedIn, one thing.
LinkedIn becomes the advantageous platform to be in because you have the possibility to connect with real people and build human interactions. We have that green banner, right, that may show open to jobs, and in reality, and some recruiters may see it as aggressive. So that won't help that much. It's more
Okay, so you would say not to put that
I
green
wouldn't
sign.
recommend.
Okay.
It wouldn't change as long as you have your profile optimized with the keywords and you know how to apply for jobs that are meaningful to you, then you'll get there.
Nowadays, a lot of times I see and I read about the concept of a portfolio career, and that in the future everyone will have a portfolio career. Do you agree with this?
Yes, I think portfolio aligns very much with the Swiss application, right? This portfolio, I don't see it as something new if you put it in the Swiss context. But any other small project, volunteering, any other engagement, that would become important as part of your portfolio.
Mm-hmm. Do you see some other maybe predictions for the next couple of years, how the job market will change? Portfolio career, yes, I understand, especially combined with what we were saying in the beginning about the AI upskilling, about human leadership capabilities and also sustainability.
I think restructures are ongoing. At the end of the day, it's how we present ourselves and keeping the focus on networking, right? Because that would be the focus. I remember a few years ago during the pandemic, I had a client who had been laid off. I mean, he was in a sales position, in a senior sales position, which helped him in a way with the presentations. But I remember now everyone having, the QR code. And at that time, he showed me a bunch of cards like this from people he had collected. He created an Excel spreadsheet with all the contacts and tried to reach out to people. And he got a few informal interviews just out of that.
That's the advantage of being an outgoing sales personality, right?
That's why I say that his profession work in this advantage. But at the same time, I work with other sales professionals and it didn't work.
Not everyone is like that.
Exactly.
Okay.
The core message here is to rely on the tools that you have and the resources and see how you can get that. As I also work with people who want to start their own business or a side business, and they show me how many great materials they have created and they never promote it.
But would you say they never promoted it because they are not sure how the employer will look at this?
Yes, I think at the same time it ties into the confidence side. So, and often I think it can be also generational or culture.
Oh, really?
So people thinking that, this is not good enough, or having that perfectionist mindset, or any other sorts of limiting beliefs that can hinder that talent.
I see. Actually, I think we touched upon a very interesting topic, and that is the sidekicks, the side projects, side businesses. What would you say generally? How do Swiss employers look at this topic?
Well, Switzerland is well known for working part-time or 80%, especially parents. But that's very different. And I hear very often from new expats that they don't know what 80% means when they are applying for a job. So that's something new. And it's often and very common to have a side business or transform your hobby into a business, or that would eventually grow at some point and people will continue working for themselves.
So you wouldn't say that this could scare the potential employers?
It could sound like a good interview question, but at the same time, it's how you position yourself. So if it's not competitive with your employer, that would be fine. If you're still being able to manage your job, or I had people who had a side business, they've been coaches for a while and they wanted to get a part-time job, and that worked perfectly.
When it comes to tech sector, financial sector in Switzerland, a lot of people are expecting restructuring. It's already in progress. If somebody from the listeners find themselves in this situation where they know that the restructuring is coming, is there some advice you would give them how to maybe either prepare for that restructuring in advance, or to increase their chances of not being affected by this restructuring, if it is even possible?
So if the employer unfortunately made a decision, it won't be easy to change that. But
Right.
on their side as candidates is being prepared or starting getting prepared. And that could mean, looking already at your network, possibilities, values, documents, so that you have that ready. And I work with people in career coaching who are being offered coaching as part of their development, and they still want to review together the CV just to understand themselves better, or to have it as a tool to apply for internal jobs. People sometimes just assume that if they have performed well, that they should get, the promotion. And
Typical mistake.
this will never happen here unless you ask for it directly, but it's also how you ask. So, how your message is being conceived and what kind of evidence you have. And as we know in Switzerland, the more proof you have, the higher the chances, right?
So how, if I feel the emotional barrier, maybe this cultural barrier to start the conversation, how would you suggest I overcome this barrier?
Well, companies are always doing, those performance or towards the end of the year. Use your empathy, as what we talked earlier, and it depends on the relationship that you have with the manager as well. So if you have a supportive manager who likes to...
That would be
develop
easier.
people, yes, that would be much easier. Yeah, I've also had cases with people who felt that the manager cannot support themselves too much, and they had to reach to other people more influential in the company.
And does that work?
That could work.
Kind of jumping one ladder of the hierarchy could be seen as a threat and maybe something impolite.
If you would state it too directly, yes. I would do it in a way related to the elevator pitch, as a pitch based on your value, and show that you're willing to develop yourself and grow, and try first to understand if there are any opportunities to develop internally.
And if the manager says there are no opportunities to develop internally, we're not having a good year, and also last year was not a good year, and maybe the next year will not be a good year.
That's also very common, unfortunately, and that's what makes people search for jobs externally.
What would you, from your experience, consider to be a normal expectation, reasonable expectation? After how many years should you see some movement in terms of career, and that would be something natural or normal or expected? And
yes, and
because
now
I
we
guess
see
you
like
cannot be
every 2
promoted
years.
every 2 years. The reasonable expectation is you get promoted after 2 years. But would that also somehow go together with the fact that nowadays people change the careers more often, or change the
Exactly.
employers rather more often, because they expect this growth, and you cannot always achieve the growth if the company doesn't also grow.
People realize that they would need to reduce their salary expectations because of the sector, and that's also something that we consider. Or startups that have a good potential to develop very fast, and if it's a professional or an executive coming from a tech industry that was very well paid, they already understand that they need to lower their salary by a certain percentage.
Certain percentage, what would that roughly be?
It could be 20%, 30%. It depends where you're coming from.
Let's say somebody decided to go full-time entrepreneurship, but it didn't work out for different reasons. And then coming back from entrepreneurship to a corporate job. How easy or difficult would that be? And what would be your advice on how to go back to that?
Yeah, I think most of the times people want to create something for themselves because they see potential and they're really excited. And it would feel also a little bit sad. As we say in coaching, a goal should be always positive. So otherwise, we highlight the problem in it, and of course, the receiver would focus on that.
So focus on the wins and focus on the learnings if there were no wins.
Exactly. Take this as an experience. I'm sure there were great skills that you have developed during.
Adelina, if listeners of our podcast are now thinking, how do I reach out to her? And what are the services besides one-on-one coaching? How do they reach out to you?
So they can find me on LinkedIn with my name, Adelina Stefan, or they can reach out on my website, theadvancedtalent.com. And on the website, I have several resources. I have a free career transition course and other guidelines that can be used by people at the very beginning, or they can book with me an initial call to discuss precise questions that they may have for me, and give them some personalized advice, and then we can decide what would best work further.
I would also add to that Adelina has a very nice Instagram page where she shares a lot of very useful insights, and I'm telling this as a person who thinks that I know pretty much everything.
Yes, for Instagram, we always share videos or other resources, and we try to give specific scenarios or tips and put it in a Swiss context on my side.
Thank you so much, Adelina, for this conversation.
Thank you so much, Senia, for this.